Okay, it says it's recording. So this is fabulous. I'm so glad that you all are here. And a quick introduction that you saw in that email is that this is, in a lot of ways, the third conversation. So the first conversation is a really good invitation, which we talked about personalizing that, talking about the benefits. And this is the part I really want you to focus on, is how this benefits the other person. Then you do a second presentation, and it's kind of a typical Shaklee presentation where you're talking about the philosophy of the company and the products and a little bit of that, but it's still focused on the person, but you're also learning from them what it is that they want out of life. What do they value? Do they want more freedom? Do they want more time with their kids? Do they want to travel more? Do they want to make a big impact on the world? Those kind of things. And then at the end of that conversation, if you ask them, are you interested in learning more and learning how you make an income at this business? And after that, they will say yes, or likely they will. But if they say yes, then this is that third conversation, which is really focused on really where does the money come from. And so Dan, this is how Dan has been doing business for many years. And I'm learning how to kind of revamp my conversation that I'm having with people, because I see the value of spreading it out into multiple conversations. So you're focused on the other person and what they want. So Dan and I were talking, and I said, Dan, can you run through this third presentation with me and kind of treat me like you would treat a prospect? And he said yes. So then we scheduled it, and that's why I invited you, because I know all of you are wanting to know where the money comes from. And then also are looking to revamp your presentations as well. And so, Dan, I'm planning on kind of answering the questions as I would have before I started a Shaklee business, with that kind of mindset and things like that. And Chelsea, I wonder if you might want to mute since you're at Starbucks.
Sure.
Yeah. Even though it would be great to feel like we're in a coffee shop, it'd be a little bit more like the atmosphere that you might have this conversation, or have it online on Zoom. That's a great thing too. So without further ado, if there's anything else you want to say before we get started, Dan, just let me know, or we can get started.
Yeah, I'll just tag on one more thing, and that is that during the official business presentation, or conversation 2, as Alyssa just described them, I'm pretty clear with the person that we're not going to talk a lot about the money. And part of that is because people glaze over quickly when you start throwing numbers. And that's one of the dilemmas of this conversation, is to make sure that somebody stays engaged. But I want them focused on, well, first of all, it's really about me finding out about them and how I can deliver a good business presentation to them. But it's about their dreams, what they want, and then some of Shaklee in general. And I touch on the money really briefly in that, but I do not spend time on that in that second conversation. That's a little unusual. If you talk to most people, they'll do the numbers part as part of the business presentation, and people are successful doing that. It's just a matter of preference for myself. I like having the money separated out, and I also like making sure that we're doing 3 conversations. So by this conversation, even if the person was a stranger or nearly a stranger when I issued an invitation to them, because good night, by this time we know each other a little bit. We've had a couple of significant conversations, and particularly in conversation 2, I've spent 20 to 30 minutes talking with them about their dreams. Hopefully they've been moved to tears in the midst of that conversation. So, and I've treated that very carefully and respectfully and gently. And so there's a significant level of trust, hopefully, that's already beginning to build in this relationship that I'm going to take advantage of. That's the wrong word to use. That will become a part of the background of this conversation. All right. Usually when I start, there's nothing visible. So the show me the money screen is normally not visible. You can leave it visible now. Don't worry about that. But usually, that's nowhere yet. And, we'll take time sort of in the middle, or a quarter to a third of the way through, and key this up. in advance of this conversation, so after we've had conversation 2 and they've said, yes, I want to know more, I want to learn about the money side of this, I send them the sheet that Alyssa sent to you. That's a 5-page, it's called the lifestyle sheet. And what I tell them is, for our next conversation, I need you to complete the first 2 pages. One of them is just a checklist. It'll take you 3 minutes. But the other one is going to ask you to dream a little bit, and that's going to take longer, and I encourage you to really do that process. That'll be important as we're going through this. So when we come to this presentation, that's where we're going to start. So I'm going to forego a little bit, in our role play here. I'm going to forego some, I usually will run a string of 6, 7, 8 questions up front, just reconnecting, light questions, nothing particularly major. Again, just that reconnection thing to get back into the rhythm of our relationship such as it is to this point. I'm going to forego with that for the purposes of time here this morning. You all know how to do that. And so at some point I will turn it to, the leading question, that is, so did you have a chance to fill out those 2 sheets that I sent you?
I did.
Excellent. Now, note, by the way, there will be a few times during this presentation I'm going to break to explain what I'm doing or why I'm doing something, or to point out something that's happening that may not actually be evident from what's here, but that is going on. So I'll try to keep those breaks to a minimum, but they're going to happen. So first break here is if somebody says, no, I didn't get a chance to work on those. My response is something along the lines of, that's too bad. When can we reschedule this conversation? I'm not going to kind of fudge through this, because as you will see, I'm going to need their numbers for how I do this presentation. And if they can't provide me with real numbers, a lot of the power of the presentation is lost. And, I've asked them this in advance. They have told me they would do it in advance. So this isn't a surprise. It may be a little bit of a surprise, but not too much of one. Okay, so great. You've got that filled up. How is that process for you, especially the dreaming part?
Yeah, it's hard because my husband is the one who handles most of our finances. So for me to numbers kind of stress me out. So, but I did it, and it was good for me to think about that. So that part was good, but I don't know that I didn't know how big I could dream. You know what I mean? I could have dreamed really big, but I don't see myself having like a full-time house cleaner, but maybe someday that would be nice. And so I budgeted in, just like $50 monthly for somebody to clean my house, and maybe that it could be bigger at some point, but that's kind of where I'm thinking now. Okay.
Well, good for you for kind of delving into uncomfortable territory to do this. Were there any points in this process that you were saying, you know what, this is kind of fun thinking about these possibilities?
Yes. Fun to think about it. Yes.
Okay. Well, are you willing to share some of the things that are on that lifestyle sheet page? Like, what were some of the ones that really kind of made your heart beat a little faster and, brought a smile to your face as you thought about it?
Well, travel is a big one. And so, I was just thinking logically. And so I put down, $1,000 a year, which would be enough for us to do like a road trip. We usually go to see family, maybe go see something along the way. But we have managed to travel pretty cheaply through road trips and things like that. But I did start thinking about, because I was just kind of thinking about what's realistic for me. But it would be fun to grow that a little bit. And even like the possibility of a house cleaner would also be that's dreaming big for me too.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Like, where would you like to travel?
Well, I want to travel in the United States with my kids. But I definitely love international travel. So, and perhaps taking my kids on that when they get older. And if we have the funds for that, but mostly I save the international trips for me and my husband.
Okay. Now, we'll break here. I would pursue this line of questioning. I want to find out, where internationally do you like to travel? What kind of experiences do you like to provide for the kids? I will we'll dig in here under normal circumstances, again, just to connect a little more, just to get a better feel for the person, what their dreams are and so on. I'm going to cut that short, again, just for demonstration purposes. But, hopefully you saw kind of how I was, just kind of gently opened it up and then, just kind of carefully pushing in. And that's an important thing. I don't go as long on this conversation as I do on conversation 2. But I do want to get a clear sense of the power of those dreams. And also, I want to see if their dreams are matching what I have learned before or not. Or is it, is this something kind of new that I haven't discovered about them? So that's a big, there are multiple purposes going on during this part of the of the questioning, the early parts of the presentation. But I'll go ahead and cut that short and move into the part that is going to be really fun for Alyssa, and that's the, sort of the numbers part of these pages.
Yes, so fun.
So, I'm curious, what did you come up with sort of as your bottom annualized total?
Around 40,000.
Okay. Excellent. What would it be like to have that much money?
I think it would be great. I mean, I would be contributing more to our family right now. We're a single income family. So to be able to add $40,000 a year to what we have, I mean, I think that we'd be able to, like travel is what we love to do, but we're also pretty smart in how we spend our money. So we've put a lot of extra money into paying for our house. So, it would be nice to have wiggle room and things like that, but also to finally pay off the house and things like that. Do that stuff early has often been our goal. And we have a lot of people that we give to as well, friends and even family members that are missionaries. So just to have more wiggle room, I think is really what would be great about it.
Yeah, I hear that over and over again, that, just kind of that sense of having a little more freedom, having, a little less pressure with money, and being able to make choices that aren't available to you. That's really cool. Okay. At this, once I get that final number, I want you to note, I'm noting these numbers down, as I'm talking to whoever it is that I'm talking, because I'm going to come back to them. And that 40,000 figure is an important one. And I'm going to be targeting that in the presentation. And you'll see when we get into that, how I do that. Okay. Is there anything else you want to say about the lifestyle sheet? Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. Let's take a look then at that second sheet, the checklist sheet, the redirect your spending. I'm curious, how many of those did you check off?
I checked off 22.
Okay, so about half of them, maybe just under half of them. Okay. Do most people that use those kinds of products?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, everything under household products, I pretty much checked off. And personal care products, I pretty much checked all of those off. I don't use a lot of nutritional products. I'd like to use more of those. I don't use a ton of skincare products. I probably could stand to use more of those. But like for me, everybody I think uses household products and personal care products.
At least you hope so, if you're going to be too close to them or spend much time in their
Right.
place.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Where do you get most of these kinds of products? Like when you buy them, where do you go to buy them?
Amazon or the grocery store, Target.
Okay. And do you get them in those places because you feel sort of a loyalty to those places, or do you do that because it's just where you get your best value?
I guess probably best value.
Okay. So if there were a place that you could get a better value that were as convenient or more convenient, you'd be open to looking at that.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, stepping out again, just those little questions aren't on the sheet, but just that little series of questions of defining why they, where and why they purchase products like this is opening up a conversation that is going to be down the road. Okay. That conversation isn't going to happen today. That's not the purpose of this. But now I've gotten, Alyssa to admit that she buys the products because they're the best value. And all I have to do is show her that Shaklee is a better value, and she has no defense. She's already admitted that. And particularly in, household products, I mean, nobody touches
the
value. So, that's important for down the road. So I wanted to point out that little interaction that just happened there, and sort of the key piece that has now been filed away for future use. Okay, here's the big money question. How much do you think the average family spends on these kinds of products per month?
Right.
I've been eagerly waiting.
I know.
To hear you answer that.
Like maybe $80, perhaps up to $100.
Okay.
But that actually made me pretty excited to think about that. The average family maybe spends $80 to $100 on that a month, because it seems like there could be a lot of possibilities for me with this business.
Okay, let's go with 100, just because it's going to make the answer to the next question a whole lot easier. And that is, if the average family spends about $100 a month on these kinds of products, how many families would it take to redirect their spending to get better value with Shaklee to get to $2,000 per month?
I was thinking 20 families.
That's spot on. Way to go, Alyssa. Put a star on your paper there. Yeah, exactly. 20 families. And that's kind of how Shaklee works, is that we help people see that we've got these awesome products that are a great value, that get shipped right to your house, and it's just a matter of redirecting your spending. We're not creating, by and large, a market for products they've never heard of or don't want. These are all the time products, and they are products that run out and need to be repurchased. And so once someone buys the products and tries them and loves the products, they are almost certainly going to want to reorder the products with just a minimum of follow-up. And so we build this little group of users around us, 20, 30, 40, and wow, there's a business there. Does that sound overwhelming?
No, I thought this page was really encouraging. It just made me think, wow, if it's only 20 families, I only have to share this with 20 families. That's exciting.
Okay, cool.
It's doable.
Yeah, and it really is. And lots of people have proven that. All right, let me pause here, see if you have anything else you want to say about the checklist or the lifestyle sheet before we get into the bulk of this. Okay, so there may or may not be interaction at this point. And now this is the point then that I will queue up the presentation. So this is the point where they're going to see the Show Me the Money page for the first time. And I'll just do it. So what I want to do from here, assuming it's okay with you, is to go through the presentation of how you earn money in Shaklee so that you understand how the money flows, the kind of activities that produce income. And we'll talk through that. And then I want to run a little model that will kind of put legs on what we've just learned, that will demonstrate the kind of how they fit together to generate income, beyond just the theoretical. Does that sound like a plan?
That sounds great.
Okay, so show me the money. It's all about the Benjamins, right? Go ahead, next page. There are basically 4 ways to make money in Shaklee. And I need to, here right at the top, I have to do a caveat and say that, well, there's actually more than 4 ways that you make money in Shaklee. But over the course of a Shaklee career, the 4 primary ways that we're going to look at today are going to be the bulk of your earnings. You may make money here and there. Most of the other ways you make money tend to be more time limited or promotional in nature. But I want to cover the real heart of the earnings program. And if some point down the future, when it becomes more relevant, we can talk about some of those other ways and ways to take advantage of them. Because if they're there, we want you to be, earning from them. But, it's not, we're not going to spend a lot of time today looking at that. Okay. So the first way, next slide. The first way you make money in Shaklee is called price differential, or the other word for that is profit. You buy products at one price, you sell them at a higher price, you keep the difference, and right there is the heart of the American economic system. And most people understand that, and I don't need to go into detail, except that there's one piece in Shaklee that makes a difference here that I want to make sure you understand. Click. Mm-hmm. Shaklee's products have 3 different price tiers. The highest price tier is the suggested retail price. Before you become a member in Shaklee, that's what you pay. It's a great price, but it's the highest price. Click. The second price tier is called member price. And when you become a member in Shaklee, and by this time the person may or may not be, but membership has certainly been addressed at some point, so they're familiar with the concept. So people who are members pay this price, click. And then the lowest price point is called distributor price, and you pay that price when you become a business leader. So what that means is that, before you're a member, you're going to pay retail. When you're a member, you're going to pay the member price. And when you become a business leader, you pay the distributor price. So as you are building a business, before you become a business leader, you will be paying the member price. If, let's say you talk to your neighbor, Joe, and Joe says, yeah, I want to become a Shaklee member. These products are great. I want to get them for the member price. And Joe becomes a member. What that means is you're going to be paying the member price in that transaction, and Joe's going to be paying the member price in that transaction, because that's where you both are on the price tier. And so there will not be a price differential in that interaction, in that transaction. You can make money other ways on that transaction, but not like that. And so that's actually one of the reasons that it's really helpful to get to that kind of business leader thing as soon as possible, so that you're making a little more price differential in those transactions. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay, cool. Go ahead, click to the next one. Go ahead, click the second one. The second way you make money then is what's called a personal group bonus. And I have to apologize, we're going to have to descend into some Shaklee lingo here. And it's not my goal that you get the lingo. I don't care about that. I want you to get the concept, but I'm going to have to go into some lingo to get to the concept. I apologize for that, but I'll try and make it as painless as possible.
Okay.
So the second way you make money is called a personal group bonus. And there's multiple things going on there. So let's talk first about that personal group. Click. Your personal group consists of you, click, and everybody that you sponsor into Shaklee, click, and everybody that they sponsor into Shaklee, click, and everybody that they sponsor into Shaklee, click, and so on, click, theoretically to infinity. Or to about, I guess, 7.5 billion, because Shaklee hasn't gone intergalactic quite yet. But it's essentially unlimited. So your personal group can be all those people as long as there is not a business leader between you and them. Okay. Now, I've used this business leader term several times now, and I'm going to define it momentarily, but hang on for just a minute. It's an important concept, and we're just about to get there. So when someone becomes a business leader, then their group, they now are between you and the people underneath them. And we'll get to that in a minute. So what Shaklee does then is, for the personal group bonus, they look at your personal group for each calendar month. And they add up all the products that have been purchased by your personal group, and they then pay you a percentage times that total. Okay, click. And this is the chart that they use to determine that. You'll notice that as your personal group volume, and that's that total, that's the sum of your entire personal group purchases, as it gets higher, the percentage also gets higher. And the percentage is paid on the whole. So it's not like you get 4% on your 250 to 499th point, and then 8% on your 500th to 999th point, or anything like that. It's just whatever your volume is, you qualify for a percentage, and they multiply that percentage times the number of points, and you get that in dollars. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes. Okay.
Now, let's point out then that for that lowest group, the 250 to 499, let's assume in your personal group, there have been 250 points purchased in your group. Shaklee's going to pay you 4% times that 4% times 250 is $10. Now, let's be real. That's not going to change your life.
Yep.
But if you have a choice between having $10 and not having $10, take the $10. Okay, there. Free financial advice from a former CFO. But if you look a little farther down the chart, you can see at 2,000 points and higher, you get 20% times that. Well, 2,000 points times 20% is $400. Okay, now we're talking a car payment. Now we're talking a lot of groceries. Now we're talking money that can really have an impact on a family budget.
Mm-hmm.
And it can get higher and higher than that too, because you're not limited to 2,000 points.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is that making sense?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so let's pause for a moment then, and let's go back to that business leader thing.
Okay.
A business leader is someone who has gotten to the level of about 2,000 points per month, and that's both the achievement and the maintenance level. So it's like, that's an every month thing. When someone gets there, they're eligible to become a business leader. Two things happen when somebody becomes a business leader. One of them is really visible. One of them is not quite as visible. The really visible one is that you qualify to pay DP pricing. So you get the lower pricing tier, and you're going to make more money on your transactions with people to whom you're selling product. Okay, so that's really cool, really good. Hey, more money, bring it on. Mm-hmm. The second thing that happens, though, it's not quite as visible, but it's also really, really important. And that is that at that point, you're going to begin to deal with Shaklee directly. Now, up to this point, it may look like you've been dealing with Shaklee directly, because you can go online and order your products and pay with your card, and it's shipped straight to your house. And it looks for all the world like you just bought products directly from Shaklee. Mm-hmm. In reality, that's not what happened. What really happened was, and Alyssa, I'm going to assume that you are directly under me.
Sure.
Here. What really just happened was you bought products from me, I bought the products from Shaklee and sold them to you. Even though that intermediate step was completely invisible to you, that's really what happened. When you become a business leader, now you're dealing directly with Shaklee. And what that means is that you're now a business owner in their eyes. Okay? Does that make sense? You have questions, need clarification on that?
Right. Well, so how are they, how are you buying them and giving them to me if I'm going online and getting it? That's how Shaklee looks at it?
That's just how Shaklee looks at it. It's in their computers. That's how it happened. I never touch your products. They really are.
That's really nice.
Yeah, they really are shipped straight from Shaklee, straight to you. It's super convenient for me. But Shaklee knows, that you are my customer. And so in their records, that's how they transacted.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Super convenient for me that way.
Yeah.
A lot less bookkeeping.
Well, and that's true for me too, and all of my customers that sign up.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Okay.
Okay. So that's the business leader thing. So go ahead, Chelsea, click to the next. So let's go back to, here's your personal group. Click to the next. And let's say that darkened circle there is your Aunt Matilda that you introduced to Shaklee, and she's fallen in love with the products, and she's shared with a bunch of people, and she's doing about 2,500 volume in her personal group, and she becomes a business leader. Mm-hmm. So go ahead, next one. So now she and all of her people are no longer a part of your personal group because there's now a business leader in between. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, click. And so she now is her own separate business entity.
Okay.
Okay, I want you to note the silent pause that I just did there.
Yeah.
What I'm doing with there is I'm waiting for the question.
So did I just lose her and I just lost a bunch of money?
That's some variation on that question is what I want to happen right here.
Okay.
And about a third of the time, in my experience, people will ask a question along the lines of, well, then why would I want someone to become a business leader if I'm just going to lose them?
Right. Great question.
Something like that. And so I always pause waiting for it, hoping that it's going to come.
Okay.
If it doesn't come, I will then ask the question. And I try to do it gently, not to say that, they're stupid for not thinking of it.
Right.
But so we'll re-engage here. So this often raises the question of, why would I want someone to become a business leader then if they're just going to disappear from my personal group and I'm not going to be getting paid on them?
Right.
And the answer to that is the third way that you make money in Shaklee. Click. And that's called a leadership bonus. Okay, click. A leadership bonus is essentially a way that Shaklee looks at people who develop other leaders and says, thank you. So let me ask you, Alyssa, have you ever been in a job where you had to train somebody?
Yeah.
Okay. When you did that, and I'm assuming just because you are who you are, that you did an excellent job of that, did your boss come back to you and say, Alyssa, you did a great job training this person, and they are going to be an asset to this company? And as an expression of our appreciation for the great job that you did training this person, we're going to pay you a percentage of the value that that person adds to this company as long as you're both with us.
Nope, they did not say that.
Okay, that is always the answer, except one time. This is an aside again. I was talking to a former insurance person, and they actually kind of did it that way. And
wow.
So if you're talking to someone who is a former insurance person, you may not want to ask that question. But I always otherwise ask that question, because that's the answer it produces. Okay, back into the role. So they don't. Well, that doesn't seem right. I mean, you put all that work in to benefit them. Why shouldn't you get part of that?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah. And unfortunately, that's kind of the way it works out there. But with Shaklee really does say that to you. Shaklee does come to you and say, thanks for developing this person, for training this person, and we are going to pay you a percentage of the value that they add to this company as long as you are both with us. And so in my mind, I kind of think of a leadership bonus as a thank you bonus, that it is an expression of Shaklee's gratitude for doing a good job as a leader. And so the way it works is, click, you develop a business leader, and then Shaklee will pay you a percentage of the business that they do. Note that the money doesn't come from them. The money is coming from Shaklee. But it doesn't stop there. If they develop a leader, Shaklee's going to pay you on them. Click, and it keeps going. Click, up to 6 generations of leaders deep.
Wow.
Now, that is so awesome. It's just hard for me to express how amazing it is that Shaklee would say thank you for helping develop leaders that deep in an organization that you're building. Because here's a part of the reality. As you're developing leaders, they're going to take over more and more leadership. Imagine that. And they're going to be doing a lot of the training. And your role, or the percentage of the responsibility for training someone as you get deeper and deeper into the organization, is going to get less and less and less on you. But Shaklee's still going to pay you up to 6 generations deep.
Wow. It
is an amazing thing. Okay.
So these are all business leaders under my first business leader.
Correct. Wow. So this would be just a single chain, the way it's structured right there, but you're not limited to that structure.
Okay.
So, go ahead, Chelsea. Next slide. This is what the chart looks like for how you get paid as a leader. Right.
I saw that on the sheet you sent.
Yep. And I need to take just a minute and explain that leftmost column, what all those ranks are. Business leader is a generic term.
Okay.
Every business leader in Shaklee has a rank. And that rank is based primarily on how many first-generation business leaders they have and how big their organization is overall. Those are the two primary requirements that determine what your rank is. And so
say that again. What two primary for business leader?
How many first generation business leaders you have.
Okay.
And then the second is how big your organization is overall.
Okay.
Those are the two primary things that determine what your rank is. So normally when someone becomes a business leader, they usually come in without a business leader under them. So that's what's called a director. But once they get a business leader under them, they're called a senior director, and so on, and it moves up the page or down the line there. That there is a page included in the file I sent you that explains all these different ranks and what the requirements are, what the benefits are, and so on. So you can look at that or not look at it, at your leisure. But I just want you to know that there are multiple ranks here. And you can see that as you increase in rank, you initially get paid higher percentage at that second generation. And then as you move up, you get paid deeper and deeper in terms of the number of generations that you get paid. Okay. Is this making sense? I know it's just a chart with numbers, but I want to make sure you're understanding the concept here.
Right. So the benefit is, as I help create more leaders, that increases my rank, and then I get paid deeper and deeper and higher percentages on leaders from below.
Exactly. You get paid better, the more leaders you develop is what it boils down to, both by percentage and by depth. You're exactly right.
Okay.
Okay, click. So if we take those numbers and apply it to that, that string of business leaders, this is the percentage that you would be getting paid if you were a presidential master coordinator. If you were near the top, so that you were getting paid all 6 generations deep. Okay.
Okay.
Now, those numbers don't look very big, 6%, 4%, 3%, but when you realize there are probably going to be quite a number of people at these various ranks, those numbers can start to generate real dollars. And I want to just give a real life example here to explain and to illustrate how profound just this part of the earnings program can be. When the people who sponsored us into Shaklee first did so, now you all know Doug and Charlene, or at least most of you know Doug and Charlene, but the person I'm talking to normally won't, so I'm going to talk with them like they're strangers. When they first introduced us to Shaklee, they worked hard, and the amount of work they put into just making a first sale to us and trying to convince us that Shaklee stuff was really good, they really were not very wise about their time in the short term because they weren't getting paid a lot for the amount of time that they were putting in. But they understood how Shaklee works and that you often get paid later for work that you do now. And so they stuck with it and they trained us, and they have spent a lot of time with us over the years. At this point, I don't spend a lot of time in training with with Doug and Charlene. I'm trained, and yet they still continue to earn these percentages on my organization because of the work that they have done in the past. And they do still work with people in my organization because it's part of their organization as well, and that's awesome. But if I spend 5 hours a year talking to them about the business, that's probably a little unusual because usually when I'm with them, we're talking about what's going on in their life and what are their kids doing, and we're talking friendship stuff. But let's assume that that I spend 5 hours a year talking to them specifically about the business that would qualify as them acting as leaders and training me. Last year they got paid somewhere between $80,000 and $90,000 on my organization based on these percentages for 5 hours of work last year. So if you can find a job where you can work 5 hours a year and get paid that kind of money legally, it's worth looking at. Okay. And these are people that I really know. It's not that I don't want to say that they're totally normal. That's a bit of a statement, but I'm not either. But they're just kind of regular folks. You wouldn't look at them and go, "Oh my gosh, look at that person! They're awesome." the point here is lots and lots of different people can do this. Mm-hmm. And it's really, it can be totally life-changing. Okay, click. Let me pause here and see if you have any questions then about that leadership bonus thing.
No, it sounds exciting. I mean, the percentage numbers look small, but then when you realize, that you're thinking about leaders here, then 6% and even 3% is not that small.
Yeah, I forget which one of the old barons, one of the industrial barons from the 18th century or 19th century said, I would rather have 1% of each of 100 people than 100% of one person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's in the numbers. So yeah, you're exactly right. All right, click. The fourth way then you make money is called the infinite bonus, or sometimes the infinity bonus. And I have to say that this to me is it is amazing that they were able to figure this out. The team that put this together and did all the work, they're like mathematical rock gods to me, because their accomplishment is phenomenal. They figured out a way that we can get paid on every single person in our organization, no matter how deep our organization goes and no matter how many business leaders are between us and them. So click. The way it works is it's kind of like, think of it as a little bit of a tag onto the leadership bonus. And this is the same chart that we saw with the leadership bonus, except that there's now a column over there to the right.
Oh.
Hopefully it's not hidden by
I know it is hidden by people, but maybe Chelsea can move us. You just click. Oh, wait, I could do it. Oh, I can just move my people. Maybe you guys can move yours.
You have to move your own.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So you can see the percentages over there. Shaklee will pay that percentage in addition to the leadership bonus. Now, it's not exactly a leadership bonus. There's a little bit of a twist to it, but you can think of it that way. So that, let's say a key coordinator, they're about the middle, that gets 6644 up to 4 levels deep, is also going to earn an additional 5% on that. Good, click. What that means then is that for a senior coordinator, which is where the infinity bonus starts, okay, click backwards now if you can, Chelsea. And I usually do it this way. I highlight it and then bounce back. You can see that they would normally get 6% and 5% at first generation and second generation of business leaders under them, and then nothing if they have any leaders deeper than that, which they may or may not have. Okay, now click again, back to that. But if you add that 2% infinite bonus, they're effectively getting paid 8% and 7% plus 2% as deep as their organization goes. Pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
For me, I always like to look at sort of what's the maximum. So if you look down there at that bottom line, that presidential master coordinator, 664433 with an 8% infinite, watch what happens to the percentages when you kind of apply that infinite across. Go ahead and click it. Those are pretty substantial numbers. That looks a lot better than 664433. And that 8% continues as deep as their organization goes. Now, I do want to point out that one of the major differences here between a leadership bonus and the infinite bonus is that the infinite bonus is a differential bonus. And what that means is if you are getting an infinite bonus and somebody, a business leader under you, is also receiving an infinite bonus, their infinite bonus is coming out of yours. And they're almost always getting a smaller percentage. Not always, but they won't get more than what you had. So for instance, I would choose an example at random. I'm going to choose this, hypothetical executive coordinator that I have that lives up in Wisconsin. As a master coordinator, I get a 7% infinite bonus, but that hypothetical executive coordinator gets a 3% infinite bonus. Well, on the people in her organization, she's getting 3% of that. And so I'm only getting a 4% infinite bonus on that part of my organization because she's getting 3 of it. Does that make sense?
I think so. And
the reason
these lines here.
Okay, yeah, the reason Shaklee does that is because they can't pay 2% plus 3% plus 4% plus 5, they can't pay all those infinite percentages on what gets sold. The price of the products would have to go through the roof in order to be able to afford that, and we wouldn't sell products. And so it is a differential bonus. But now I want to point out that having a significant leader under you that is collecting an infinite bonus is a really good thing. Okay, this is not punishment. It is not bad. You want big leaders under you. I want people who are earning huge infinite bonuses and, going ahead and, meaning that I'm not going to get as high a percentage in my infinite bonus, because what that means is my organization is getting bigger. I'm earning a lot more in leadership bonus, and, I'm coming out way, way ahead. Okay, so don't look at this and think, oh, I wouldn't want people to be taking my infinite bonus. Yeah, you do. You really do, because it is a big net positive when that happens.
Okay.
Okay, does that make sense?
Yes. Side note, everybody take my infinite bonus.
Well, that's why I continually challenge people, get to presidential master before me, please. Go ahead. Eat up my infinite bonus. I'll celebrate with you every step of the way.
Pretty cool. You'll still get paid in leadership bonuses. So I like how it makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, go ahead. Click, Chelsea. Okay.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Now, just an aside, I do pause when we get to the slide. I let them read it. Okay, it's a little bit humorous. It's funny.
Right.
What I'm doing here is creating an intentional break.
That's good.
Because we're just about to shift, throwing in a little humor here, and I do pause. Okay, any questions to this point? Are you still with me? Are you glazing over? And so we may have actually a little conversation here, and that's okay. I kind of want their brain to reset. I want it to clear out a little bit. I want the light to come back into their eyes. Mm-hmm. And so this,
good idea.
It's a deliberate light humor pause. I'll often say something like, "Yeah, I spared no expense when I created it." No, that's not right. I spent no expense when I created this slide. Just keep it light, keep it funny. Just a little bite of sherbet to cleanse the palate, as it were. Okay, so what I'd like to do now then is to move on into a model that sort of puts legs on all this stuff that we just talked about.
Okay.
Does that work for you?
Sounds good.
All right, click. Anytime you do a model, you have to make assumptions. And so we're going to make two primary assumptions. The first assumption is that everybody that we're going to talk about, and we're going to be talking about business leaders primarily, will have exactly 5,000 PV in their personal group. Now, let me explain why I chose that number. It is the nearest nice round number to what is reality in my group. Okay, if you look over my whole group and take the sum of the volume that my group does and divide it by the number of business leaders in my organization, 5,000 is the nearest to what is real in my group, the nearest 1,000 figure. Okay, so this isn't just pulled out of the sky. This is pretty close to reality, but I want a nice round number because it makes the math a whole lot easier that we're going to be dealing with. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, now I want to step back and do an aside here because something just happened that's really important that the person I'm talking to did not notice. You probably didn't notice. But what I just did.
Oh, well, go ahead.
Yeah, what I just did was I just drew a line of kind of what people in my group do. Okay? Earlier, I defined business leader as 2,000. I bumped it. I don't know if you noticed. I kind of bumped it to 2,500 when I was talking about hypothetical Aunt Matilda.
Wow. Yeah.
And I said, that you're eligible to be. I kept it deliberately a little fuzzy because I do not want people to come in thinking 2,000. And so what I've just done here is I set the bar at 5,000. This is what my group does. They haven't even said they're in yet.
Mm.
But I'm already working at setting that bar at where I want it to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
So I wanted to explain that that's a piece that's going on here. Everything else I said was true. 5,000 is the closest thousand figure to what happens in my organization. But
You're setting the bar high, and it's great because you don't want people to really just be a 2,000 director because they don't get all the benefits.
And
you want them to think about 5,000. There's a lot more benefits that come with 5,000.
Yeah, it's not nearly as much fun to be a 2,000 PV director as it is to be a 5,000 PV director or a 10,000 PV director or a 10,000 PV, executive coordinator or whatever.
Yeah.
Bigger is better. Okay,
Bigger
so back to presentation. So that's the first assumption. The second assumption, click, is that everybody that we're going to talk about in this is going to do fast track at exactly the required speed, not any faster. Now,
okay.
Stepping out here, I have mentioned fast track when I did the business presentation.
Okay.
So in my presentation, there is an image that is labeled fast track, and I have just glazed over it. It's a way that you can make money if you really want to work hard when you're first coming into the business. Shaklee will throw a lot of extra cash at you if you decide to do that. That's about all I say. We'll talk about it later. And so now, I may remind them that we have talked about fast track in the past right here. If you remember, we talked about this, that this is the kind of extra rewards that Shaklee throws out for people who decide they want to build really fast. Mm-hmm. And so what I want to do in this model is illustrate fast track, but understand the time frames that we're talking about only exist for fast track. They don't exist for the rest of the earnings. So you can double the time, triple the time, 10 times the time if you want to go super slow. Not sure why you'd want to do that, but the earnings for the 4 ways that you make money are still going to be the same based on the what's happening in your organization. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into this. Click. We're going to start with you in your little box up there at the top of the page once again.
Okay.
You're a business leader. Congratulations. Click. Mm-hmm. And as a business leader, you've done 5,000 PV because that's what we're doing in this model. That is going to mean that you're going to get paid about $1,800 a month or about $21,500 per year on an annualized basis. Okay? How did we get to those numbers? Well, that's part of what this part of the presentation is designed to show is how those fit together. So let's take a look at it. Click. Let's go back to that first chart that we looked at with the personal group bonus. You remember, when you do 2,000 or more personal group volume, Shaklee will pay you 20% times that volume in dollars. Click. So 20% times 5,000 points is $1,000. Okay, so you're going to get $1,000 in personal group bonus. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, click. The next piece of it is that you're going to earn in price differential about 16%. Now, this is the differential between the DP, the price that a business leader pays, and the price that a member pays. That's what this consists of. And the 16% has that tilde in there because the ratio is not the same across all of the Shaklee products. So it may be 16%, it may be 15%. It's going to vary.
Okay.
But 16% is a reasonable number. And so 16% times 5,000 is going to be about $800 in price differential that you're going to earn on that 5,000 points. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, click. So $1,000 in personal group bonus plus $800 in price differential is about $1,800 per month. Click times 12. That months in the year, that annualizes out to about $21,500. Follow that?
Yes. So it looks like you don't have any business leaders in your group yet. If you're
Correct.
just getting paid on this.
Correct. In this, this is just you as a brand new business leader doing your 5,000 points a month.
Okay.
Okay, click. However, there's, well, okay. So for the rest of this model then, you're going to earn that in your personal group. That's not going to change. You're always going to do 5,000. You're always going to get paid about $1,800 a month.
Okay.
Okay. So for the rest of the time we're talking, that's in there.
Okay.
All right. So click. 3 months after you become a business leader, according to Fast Track, you would need to become a senior director. In reality, you can do it the month you break out. You can do it 18 years later. You get to move at your speed, but again, we're traveling at Fast Track speed just to illustrate that program. I want you to note what I just did there was I did a really clear kind of take time pressure off, because most people aren't going to want to do Fast Track the whole way through. Mm-hmm. And that's fine. Mm-hmm. And so I don't want them to feel under the tyranny of the time clock that's going to be ticking up there at the top center of the pages. So what I just did there, I normally do a couple times during this part of the presentation, just so that they understand again and again, you don't have to do this fast if you don't want to. Better to do fast, but you don't have to. Okay, so back in. So here we are 3 months later. You now have a business leader under you, and it's Aunt Matilda. God bless her. What a wonderful woman she is, and she has seen the value. Go ahead, click. And Aunt Matilda is doing her 5,000 points per month. And on that 5,000 points, Shaklee is going to pay you $300 in leadership bonus on what she did. Okay, click. Let's go back to that chart. You can see here in green, you're a senior director, and you get paid 6% on your first generation people and 3% on your second generation people. But you don't have any second generation people yet. So it's just the 6% on the first. Click. 6% times her 5,000 is $300 a month. And so the $1,800 that you earn plus the $300 that you're going to earn on Aunt Matilda's volume, it's going to mean you're going to get paid about $2,100 a month, or around $25,000 a year annualized. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, click. That may not sound like a really big increase, but that's actually over a 16.5% raise. Wow. Just in terms of the rate of earnings. I don't know about you. I don't know people getting 16.7% raises these days. In fact, I know people that aren't even getting 0.7% raises these days.
Wow.
The cool thing here is that it's your own work that determines how much of a raise you get. Not completely, because it's also the work of other people, but your work is key in that. Okay, click. In addition, Shaklee is going to give you 2 free registrations to their global conference that they have every year. It is the most exciting meeting of the year. This year it's going to be in Las Vegas, and I usually will talk a little bit about global conference at this point, just to try and generate some enthusiasm for it. But I'm not going to spend a lot of time because they haven't even said they're in yet. Okay. But I want them to know that this is a nice perk. Getting a free registration, cool. Save $500. Okay, click. Okay, so 3 months more down the road, you're now 6 months since you become a business leader. Again, by Fast Track terms, you're going to be required to be a coordinator. A coordinator is someone who has 2 business leaders at their first generation. Now, because everybody on here is doing Fast Track, that means your Aunt Matilda needs to be a senior director. And so she's going to have found someone as well this month. And so you can see the 2 darker green circles are the new additions to your organization. But if you notice up there at the top left, the rank that is there for you is senior coordinator, not coordinator. And that's because a senior coordinator is also someone who has 2 first-generation business leaders, but they also have the requirement of doing 10,000 in their whole organization. We call that OV, organizational volume. Don't worry so much about the acronym. What it means is it takes your personal group volume and the personal group volume of all your business leaders and adds it all together. Well, because of the nice, strong group that you're building here, you've already got your 10,000. So you're going to jump straight to senior coordinator. Congratulations. Well done. And this then is what the structure would look like. Okay, click. You're a senior coordinator, which means you're going to get paid 6% and 5% at first and second generation. Click. So that means the 6% on 2 first generation leaders now, that's going to be $300 each. We saw that with Matilda last time. So just double it. It's now $600 a month. Plus you're going to get 5% times the 5,000 PV of whoever that person is under your Aunt Matilda. Maybe it's her sister, your Aunt Bessie, I don't know. But that's going to be another $250. Add that all together, you're going to be bumped up to just under $32,000 a year annualized. But wait, there's more. Because you're a senior coordinator now. And if you remember back from that infinite bonus that we looked at, click, senior coordinator was where that infinite bonus kicked in. And so as a senior coordinator now, you're going to get an additional 2% on all of those leaders' volumes every month. Click. So we'll take that 2% times 5,000 is going to be $100 per business leader in infinite bonus, and you've got 3 business leaders, so that's going to be another $300 that's going to be thrown in. And you're going to be earning just a shade under $3,000 a month, or a little over $35,000 a year annualized. Okay. Now I want to point out that this is not a really huge organization. And I want to point out that that income level that's down there is really close to that dream income level that was on your sheet that we talked about right at the beginning of this.
Right. I was thinking that.
Okay. So you can see it's possible to get to that level of earnings without having to have this super monster organization because of the way Shaklee structures their business plan. You get paid on product sales and you get paid on developing an organization. And those work together to provide really good income without having to have a monster organization.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems more doable than I thought.
Yeah. Okay. Step aside here. The reaction you just, spoon-fed me was, that's kind of the reaction that I want to get out of people. But notice that I have now tied this back into her dream. Okay. And so when I wrote down that she wanted, about 40,000, in my head, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to, I know when they're going to come up in the presentation because I've done that enough that, I'm going to make sure I point out how quickly it's possible to get there if somebody really goes to town, but how it's possible to get there without a monster group, that it's more achievable than people think. And so suddenly, what's happening now, in the person's mind is, whoa, this may actually be doable. And now, we've talked about dreams and, because the person is talking with me and that's been, a huge component of our conversation to this point, at some level, it may be completely subconscious, it may be conscious, but dreams, Shaklee, achievable, this is all starting to meld together into kind of a different level of, whoa, I could really do this. That's exactly what I want to be going on right now in their brains. Okay, so making sure that the dream income gets tied to whatever page we're on, and gets laid out as this is so possible. It's a really important step, because by the time we get to the end of this, frankly, what most often happens is people are excited. We've just been talking about numbers for 45 minutes or an hour, and they're excited. This is why.
You're a miracle worker, Dan.
It's just tying it to dreams. That's the magic. It's not magic.
Right. Well, and what I was thinking is I'm not a numbers person. I didn't get all of this when I first started. I probably wouldn't have wanted to hear it when I first started. But if I had, and that's where I see the benefit of doing this, is if I had, it would help me say, this is doable, and I would have done my business in a different way. I focus so much on selling products and not sharing the business, but there's no way you can get to developing leaders is a faster way than selling a bunch of products. So had I known this earlier, I would have saved myself a lot of time.
Well, yes and no. Actually, early on, the quickest way to make money faster is to build your customer base. That's where early on, just the short term, let's get me to $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
You can do that quickly with product sales, and it's good to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But there comes a point where it tips, and where it's sort of like, okay, I have income coming in now. I need to be starting to think longer term, because really, having one first generation business leader, even who's doing 5,000, it's $300 in your pocket. That's not a total windfall. But think future. It may well become a total windfall. We don't know. And so I want to kind of push back a little bit against, it's really all about building an organization, because early on it's not. If people get started building an organization early, great. If they see this and understand that longer term, higher wealth is going to come from an organization, perfect. And let's start, working that way right from the get-go, but we're still going to be focused on product sales early on.
Absolutely. But I think also sharing the business, because as those people, before they get to be leaders, that's product sales. So you would have more people to choose from and people that are ready to go, and faster to get to your 5,000 PV if you have people on your team who are at least doing 250, or 500, or growing to 2,000, 5,000 themselves. So
right, exactly. Okay, so let's since we're kind of paused here, does anybody have questions? I want to leave some time at the very end for kind of big overall questions, but
I know Michelle had to run.
Okay.
So, yep.
All right, so let's go ahead and kick back in. Go ahead and click Chelsea. Okay, I'll point out that this is almost a 40% increase annualized over what you were earning just 3 months previous. Click.
Pretty awesome.
Yep. And Shaklee is going to start throwing other stuff at you. So because you have done Fast Track, they're going to throw $1,000 cash at you. Oh, by the way, you will have earned a free trip to California for the new directors conference, for 2 people. Oh, by the way, you will have earned car payments for a car that are now going to kick in at this point, 3 years, already lined up. And, that's in addition to the earnings that you're already seeing. Click. All right. So 3 months later, you need to be now a senior coordinator, which you already are. So you don't, we're not adding any specific first generation business leader to you, but the other people are continuing to grow. We've seen kind of how the math works at this. And so, we'll just go ahead and say, if you do all the math, you're going to be earning a little over $41,000 per year annualized. Click. And that's another 17% increase almost. Click. Plus, Shaklee is going to be throwing, they just can't stop throwing cash at you for the Fast Track achievements that's going on here. Now, if you're not doing Fast Track, those cash bonuses aren't going to be paid. Okay. At this point, you would have qualified for the dream trip, which, right now we're just concluding a year, and I'll talk a little bit about the dream trip. I don't need to do that right now, but just to kind of whet their appetite that, hey, someplace sunny, warm, beautiful. Oh, by the way, 5-star resort. And did I mention free?
Yeah, pretty awesome.
And plus you've already now got another 3 years of car payments lined up. So at this point, you've got 5 years and 9 months worth of car payments still coming to you. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
And note that you're earning your car payments at the rank that you currently are at, not at the rank that you initially earned them at, because that's just how Shaklee rolls.
Mm.
Okay, go ahead and click, Chelsea. 3 months more, you need to be a senior executive coordinator, or you need to be an executive coordinator. Because of the strength of your organization, you're going to, again, jump straight through to senior executive coordinator. Congratulations. It's awesome work that you're doing. You do all the math, the earnings are going to jump up to almost $75,000 a year annualized. Click. You can see that senior executive coordinator, you're up to a 4% infinite bonus. Click. And note that your Aunt Matilda is also receiving an infinite bonus. And so there's going to be some, the differential of that's going to come into play as it's going to come into play for that second person that you brought in, whoever that is. Maybe that's your neighbor Joe again. Mm-hmm. But your infinite bonus that's actually going to be into your pocket is going to be $1,500. All told, that's about almost an 80% increase over where you were 3 months prior. Now, I want to point out that the reason this is growing so fast is because you're not doing it alone.
Mm-hmm.
You've got lots of people who are working here with you, who are part of your team, that are also building their businesses, that is also happening to build your business, which is just one of the awesome things about network marketing in general and Shaklee in specific. Click. Another big bunch of cash that Shaklee wants to throw on you. Your car payments are going to have increased. I so far have left this top achievers strip on there. Right now, technically, at this point, they would not yet be qualified.
Right.
And probably for next year, that's going to remain the same. Those shift. I would just fudge through that.
Sure.
Point. I don't want to change this every year, even though qualifications seem to change every year for the top achievers, although they're keeping them the same, I hear. Cool.
Okay.
Click. And 3 months more, and this is where we'll stop the model. This is where you would need to be a senior executive coordinator, which, you already were.
Mm-hmm.
But you can see that the earnings would jump up to over $87,000. Click. There would be, that's another 17.7% increase. Click. Again, Shaklee can't stop throwing cash at you when you're in this fast track program. It's really kind of fun. And by the way, now you've got another 3 years of car payments lined up waiting for you. Pretty cool. Okay, click. So let's kind of take a look. We've just run through 15 months of a model. Again, you don't have to do this in 15 months. If you do it in 3 years or 5 years or 20 years, it doesn't matter. The earnings in this first column, the 4 ways, are still going to be consistent. So
sure.
Go ahead and click through to the month 15, Chelsea. And you can see, at the bottom, so, in that time,
yeah.
If you do it in 15 months, it sums up to $56,800. But in reality, your rate of earning at this point is going to exceed that. It's lower because you started off the first few months not earning very much. Click. Yeah. You also will have, if you do the fast track plus all the miscellaneous payments, those miscellaneous payments, by the way, were car payments other than the first one, which was the free tickets to the conference.
Okay.
It's going to be over $100,000 you can earn in 15 months if you do fast track. Again, not a requirement, but if you've got the time and the drive, why not?
Mm-hmm.
Click. You also will have earned multiple trips. Again, top achievers, maybe not. You've got another 8.5 years of car payments lined up. Click.
Uh-oh.
No, I'm just being silent. This is.
I was like, did you freeze? Okay.
Okay, and that's the way I do it. I want them to read this slide. I don't want to read it to them.
Okay, and I'll just say, in case somebody's listening to it, plus you'll have a growing business that will provide you on an ongoing basis with a 6-figure income, or very nearly, freedom, independence, security, a future, a legacy, and great satisfaction. And all this is a result of helping people and making a positive difference in the world. I love that.
Okay, so I'll pause. I want them to read that,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll say, so that's the end of our of the model here.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on in your head right now?
Wow.
Note how before you answer. Note how I asked that. I did not ask, do you want to join?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. What's going on in your head right now?
Well, I don't know if I can do all that fast track stuff. That sounds overwhelming. But even if I could always try for it, and if I get it, great. But if I don't, that other column is still quite a bit more than 30,000 or 40,000 that I was thinking about.
Mm-hmm. Okay. At this point, depending what the response is, I may or may not engage more deeply just into kind of what they're thinking, making sure that, that I clarify if I detect any confusion or not. I often get responses similar to what Alyssa said was, I don't know if I could do it that fast. And so I will usually address that, just kind of reaffirming again, the fast track thing is totally optional. The cool thing is you can do it if you want and stop at any time. The first 1 or 2 or 3 stops are a lot easier to achieve and don't necessarily require a huge outlay of time. Mm-hmm. If you get it, great. If not, okay. One of the benefits of this business is you get to move at your own pace. Mm-hmm. Okay, so again, I'm trying to relieve time pressure. I want them to know the fast track is available, even if they don't want to commit to it long term. But there's no pressure here.
Okay.
And then, once this conversation winds down, I'll come to the big question. And, I will usually say, okay, I want to ask you one more question. And this is kind of the big one. That is, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being, thank you so much for this information. This just really isn't for me right now. And 10 being, oh my gosh, I am so excited. I can hardly stand it right now. Where would you say you are?
I think maybe I'm an 8 or 9.
Okay. That's the most common response.
I figured, yeah. Nobody wants to be too excited.
Yeah. I mean, occasionally I'll get a 10, everybody all in. And note, I did not say, do you want to join? It's a continuum. It's a softer approach, but I want to hear what they're thinking, not just yes or no, do they want to join? And so, if someone comes in 7, 8, even a 6, I will ask a follow-up question right here. And that is, okay, cool. What would it take to bump you up to an 8 or a 9?
Okay.
It's an easy question, totally non-threatening. Most of the time, the response I get to that is, I don't know the products, so I don't know if I could sell them.
Sure.
And, when I get that response, my response is pretty much always, that is so wise. Okay.
Right.
Pat them on the back. That's so smart because you're exactly right. If you don't believe in the products, this business isn't going to work. Mm-hmm. And so, if you have interest in this, that would be something really important, is to get familiar with the products, try them, see how awesome they are. That would frankly be the best thing you could do first, if you decide you want to move forward with this. Mm-hmm. And so now, note where we are.
Yeah.
Now we're just set up to talk about, a package. If they want to do that, or, even if they don't want to go that way and just want to choose a few products, fine. But we're into products, and I do push gently, but I do push at this point for them to try the products, because it's the big question that's out there. If someone comes in, if they have some other reason, I don't know if I have the time or not.
Right.
And that's the second most common hesitation that I hear. My response is, people are busy, life is crazy, and I can't answer that for you. That is a question that you will have to decide for yourself. Do you see in this something that is special enough that you're willing to throw your schedule out of kilter for a while in order to get it?
Mm-hmm.
And you have to answer that question for yourself. Note that in no way am I pushing them toward a resolution there. And and I encourage you strongly, don't push them at that point. If they raise that as the objection, what I do is what I just did, is step backward. That's what I just did. Okay, I'm taking my hands off. It's totally up to you.
Mm-hmm.
And what that tends to do then, have we talked about the step back?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, that's a step back strategy right there. So
Mm-hmm.
that, the kind of what they are more likely to do is step forward. Oh, well, but I'm not saying I can't,
Mm-hmm.
which is often what I hear then. And, so this is going to be a conversation that we're going to have is about their time. And, whether that's, whether they are going to be able to do it or not.
Okay.
Okay. If someone is, ends up on an 8, 9, or 10,
Mm-hmm.
what I would say to them then is, okay, the next step then would be, and in my system, it's what I call the planning, commitment, and strategy session, where we're going to talk about time and we're going to talk about obstacles, and we're going to kind of hammer out what this is going to look like. And so I'm not going to have the time conversation with someone now. I'm going to have it with them then. And and so then that will be the next step if they want to go on. And so if you're ready to move forward, that would be the next thing that we would do. I will send you the first packet of training materials, and we'll get started in your training. But the first real thing we're going to do is have a conversation where we kind of lay out what our relationship is going to look like, because I'm not going to be in a position of pushing you.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to be helpful to anybody, and I need to know kind of what you're thinking you want.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And almost always, if they're an 8, 9, 10, it's like, cool, we'll set it up. And usually it's within, a few days or a week. And we're going to have that conversation. Excuse me.
Okay.
And then we're off and running, and now we're into training.
So, but at the end of this, did you say you're showing them packages and like having them officially sign up if they're an 8 to 10?
At this point, if somebody is saying, yes, I want to move forward, for me, yeah, I am going to recommend that they purchase a package to try the product. If it's someone that's familiar with the products, that has already used the products, I may go pretty soft on the package because they're familiar with it.
Sure.
And I don't have the, you need to try this so that you know what you're talking about lever to use.
Yeah.
I will probably bring it up and say, at some point, we'll probably want to do this. It doesn't have to be today, although if you want to do it today, that's great. But doing this sets you up for earnings in the future that will more than offset the expense, that you're going to have on this package. So, it'll depend on the person. Most of the time, it's somebody fairly new. And if they're in, yeah, that's where we're going to head.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you, Dan.
You're welcome. Okay, that was a lot of words.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate it.
Let me just kind of say, any questions from you, Chelsea or Aaron? And thank you, Chelsea, for doing a good job of being my slide.
Thanks, Chelsea.
I don't think I have any questions.
Well. Oh, no, you're fine.
I was gonna say I don't think I have any questions, but I appreciate. I just thought the way how you stepped back and how you did the questions was very respectful, and so I appreciated that. Like, I think that's definitely things I can learn from you, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. Chelsea, what were you saying?
Oh, I was just saying I'm glad I could follow along well. You make it easy. Yeah, I second Aaron. This was great. It's always such a good reminder for me when I listen to you ask those questions and pause, because I think I get excited a lot of times and I don't think about pausing.
Can you give me 2 seconds?
Yeah, so it's always a good reminder.
Yeah, yeah, that was a hard one for me to learn. Emotion means talk, right? I'm scared, I'm going to talk. I'm excited, I'm going to talk. I'm ill at ease, I'm going to talk.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dan. We've recorded this, so hopefully this can be something we can all review really well.
Yes.
And thank you even for taking the step backs a little bit. I know it took longer than anticipated, you guys, but I appreciated that he took the steps out of the conversation to say, this is why I say this way, and this is why I pause here, and all that is really good. So
yeah. Normally this is about an hour, but I'm not training someone at the same time.
Right. Okay. Well,
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Dan, and thank you, Chelsea and Aaron and Elise and Michelle and everybody who wants to watch this. And thanks for being here, making time for it.
All right.
Thanks, Dan.
Merry
Thanks,
Christmas,
Alyssa.
everybody.
Bye, Chelsea. Merry Christmas.
Bye.
Almost done.